In this video, we're going to look at getting Frame Relay working with subinterfaces so we can start to see the benefit of setting this up. Give you some idea of what we have in the topology here is I have routers 1 and 2 that are going to be connecting over to router 3. Now we'll notice that Frame Relay, I only need one connection going up to the ISP. That can actually be mapped to these different serial interfaces on routers 1 and 2, and they'll look like physical connections. Now, of course, this is cost savings because I don't need a cable trenched from router 1 to 3, and I don't need a cable trenched from router 2 to router 3. We can just share this using subinterfaces. Remember, this does create a single point of failure, so you have to be a little bit careful about that. To show you what the configurations look like as of right now, I've configured router 1 and router 2. So just putting on the IP addresses, we've got the DELC numbers and the LMI type of ANSI. And actually, before we get too far, I just noticed a little bit of a mismatch in that IP address. So let's go fix that quick, and then we'll focus this on router 3. So it should be in serial 000, and the IP I wanted was 10.1. There we go. So nothing has been configured in the cloud, and nothing has been configured on router 3 here. Let's jump into router 3 and we can get this set up. So from router 3, what we're going to do is from our config T mode, we're going to go into our interface serial 000, turn on the encapsulation, so encapsulation frame relay, make sure the interface is not shut down, so we're going to do a no shut, and that's all we configure for the physical interface. So no IP addresses, nothing else on the physical interface. The rest of the configuration is going to happen with these sub-interfaces. I'm going to make a new sub-interface here, and we're going to go interface serial 000, and let's make one for router 3 to router 1. So I'll go 301, and we need point to point. Okay. So now I'm sitting in my sub-interface. Here's where we can start to set our IP addresses. So we'll do an IP address, and I'm just going to call this, let's do 10.3. We'll set up our frame relay for it. So frame relay, interface, DLCI, and this will be 3 to 1. Frame relay, we want the LMI type. Let's see, actually we shouldn't need to set LMI. That might be what we're actually going to need to change on the physical interface if we need to change it, so not a big deal there. So let's go to our next sub-interface. Let's do, we'll exit out of this. We'll do interface serial 000.302. This is again point to point. Okay. All we'll do is set the IP address. 172.16.10. Let's just go with 4. So keeping things simple here. And that's right, that's going to be a little bit of a problem, so we can just do, let's do 20.4. We'll have to go change some IP addresses around, but not a big deal. Okay, and let's set the DELC number with that, so frame relay, interface, DLCI, and this will be 302. Okay, let's back out of this. Let's go into our interface serial 000, set the encapsulation, which I already have, so let's do frame relay. Wanted to change the LMI type, so we'll set that to ANSI here. So let's take a look at this. Show run and see what we have. So what we did here, serial 0, the physical interface, no IP address, we did a no shutdown on it, set the encapsulation to frame relay, set the frame relay LMI type of ANSI. Our first subinterface, 301, set the IP address of 10.3, DELC number of 301. Our second interface, which is a subinterface, is 302. The IP address of 20.4 this time, so we're going to need to go fix the 20 subnet on router 2, which is no big deal. frame relay Delcy number of 302, and then our clock rate was automatically set. So before we get too far, let's just change this IP address here on router 2. So config t, interface, serial 000, IP address 172.16.20. We can just call it 20.1. So anything in that same subnet, we should be good. Perfect. Now what we need to do is go configure the cloud side of things. So create these mappings between these different interfaces. I'm going to go on the cloud here, and let's start out with serial 0, so the connection between router 1 and the cloud. The DLCI number that we set was 103, and this will be router 1 to router 3, so we can add that. Serial 1, so the connection between router 2 and the cloud. The Delcy number we set for that was 203. The name, router 2 to router 3. So we'll add that. So we have 103, 203, serial 2. This is this connection down here to the router 3. And this is where we had a couple of numbers. So we had 301. This is router 3 to router 1. We had 302, which is router 3 to router 2. Add that in. Make sure we set all of these to ANSI. So we'll go back through, setting them all to ANSI. Okay. Next thing we need to do is configure the frame relay mappings. So on serial 0, we've got our router 1 to router 3, which is going to connect to serial 2. That's router 3 to router 1. We'll add that. It's coming in on serial 1, and that's router 2 to router 3. This is still going to go out serial 2, but we need the mapping from router 3 to router 2. We'll add that in. Okay, so if we give this a little bit of time, it's going to take a little bit for it to converge and get everything all mapped out correctly. But what we should be able to do eventually here is from router 1, we should be able to ping 172.16.10, and then what did we have here? I think it was 10.3 possibly. 10.3, so let's give that a shot. 10.3, and there we go. Router 2, what we should be able to do here is we should be able to ping 172.16, this was 20.4, and everything is good. So what we've effectively done, saved ourselves some money by using one serial link here back to the ISP. The ISP created those mappings for us for our remote branches, and everything is interconnected that way.